Hi everyone, today I am here to talk about Echoes from the Macabre by Daphne du Maurier. It has been a while since I've done a book review. I was simultaneously reading this short story collection by Daphne du Maurier and a book about the Belgian takeover of the Congo and the horrible things they did there, and so it's just taken me a while to finish a book because I don't want to sit and read for 3 hours about how horrible people were to the Congo back in the day. So, but like honestly, back in the day, I mean, I'll get into it when I get to that book review, but it was happening like late 1800s up through the 1900s, and I was like, what is wrong with people? Anyway, but that is not about this book today. Like I said, it's Echoes from the Macabre by Daphne du Maurier. I know that I've talked about her before because I have reviewed Jamaica Inn, and I have talked about how I do like her books, Rebecca and My Cousin Rachel as well. And so I thought it'd be interesting to see if I liked her short stories, and it turns out that I do. So I was just going to go through, give my little reviews of each one. I won't go like super in depth, but it took me a while to get into this as well because the first story, which is Don't Look Now, was not my favorite one. The wife just seemed like super flitty and like always worried and just wishy-washy, and the husband was just kind of upset that she wasn't happy all the time, and I didn't like either of them. And so it took me a minute to get into the Don't Look Now story, but it was still well written. It was all right. The premise wasn't my favorite either, but the apple tree, which is the second one, I really liked that one. It's basically about a guy whose wife was just always going around the house. She was always like hunched over and bent, and as if the whole world was pushing her down. And she would like never complain, but she would make little comments off to the side and made it seem like, the whole world was against her, but never spoke out about it or anything. And it just like, nagged at the man that she was always acting like this. And at the beginning of the story, she has passed away, and he looks outside and he sees this apple tree and he's like, oh, I've never noticed that. That's really cool. But then he begins to notice that the apple tree is like bent over and hunched just like his wife was, and it starts reminding him of her, and it just drives him like batty. And I really like the idea of that because I know for me, like certain objects, certain songs, certain things can remind me of other people, whether good or bad. And so it just reminded me to like not become obsessed with that though, because that's what happens to this guy. Like he looks at this apple tree, it reminds him of his wife, and he just becomes obsessed with it. And so it's basically, like his wife is still there nagging him, whereas he should have just like let it all go. I wouldn't say he's like free now because he wasn't ever a slave to her or anything. It was just like all in his mind and mentally. And obviously they should have worked on that in their marriage. But anyway, it was just like reminding me like not to obsess about crazy things, and how like we can twist things and really make them seem like something different. And it was just super fascinating. I really, really loved the apple tree. The pool was weird, still readable, but just like really weird. The blue lenses, this is the one that I read and I was like, oh my gosh, how does Daphne du Maurier come up with all these ideas? Like, all of these short stories are just super different from each other, and this one was just so wonky and so weird, but so, like I said, it was interesting, it was funny, but it was strange. It was way out there, and I was like, just what made her think of this? So I really like that. Kiss Me Again, Stranger, like I said, they're all different. This is kind of like a romance slash murder story, and I kind of knew what was happening, but I liked it. The I don't know how to say the next one, honestly. The Camois or the Chamois, it's kind of like a type of like big goat or bighorn sheep type animal. But that one kind of at the beginning reminded me of the short story by Ernest Hemingway that I think is called The Short Happy Life of Francis Macabre. Don't quote me on that, but if you were to type in Ernest Hemingway, The Short Happy Life of whoever, like it'll come up. It reminded me of that at the beginning, and I was like, oh, I really like that short story. I wonder how this one's going to turn out, if it's going to kind of be the same thing. Totally didn't expect the ending, and honestly, I don't really think I liked the ending. It's just like a husband and a wife out on a hunting trip, and the husband's just kind of like been an a-hole for forever, and I won't say what happens at the end, but I wasn't happy with the ending. I was hoping other things would happen, obviously, and that's all I'll say about that. Not After Midnight was kind of like a quirky, fun murder mystery while on vacation, but in short story form, so I really liked that. The Old Man had a twist that I totally wasn't expecting at the very end. I was just kind of like, what? Like, what is happening here? And I really liked that. It was weird and it was totally out of the blue for me, but I was like, huh, that was tricky on her part. I liked that. And then there is, of course, The Birds, which is Daphne du Maurier's probably most famous short story because Alfred Hitchcock adapted it into his film, The Birds. And I really enjoyed it. It was kind of like, I wasn't say I was terrified, but if I was in the situation the characters were in, I would be terrified. It's basically that birds decide to attack humans like in force, and they're like smashing themselves against windows and trying to come down chimneys. And at first, no one's listening to this guy who's like, the birds are acting weird. Like, we need to be prepared. Like, what if they come for us? And everyone's like, that's silly, whatever. And then, like, it gets bad. It gets bad really quick. So, and it's dark. Like, there's not this happy, uplifting, all the birds left ending or anything like that. I won't say exactly what happens at the ending, but it's just like not this lovely, Hollywood where they have to tie everything in a bow ending these days. Like, it's not that at all. And I haven't seen the movie, so I have no idea what the movie's like. I thought the short story, like I said, didn't necessarily like scare me, but imagining myself in the characters' positions, it would be terrifying. So I really enjoyed that. And I think I'll definitely watch the movie now to see what it's like and if it's anything like the book at all. I mean, it is a short story, so I'm sure plenty of liberties were taken to like stretch it out and make it more of a full-length film. And I'd be interested to see how it ends, if it ends on a happier note or not. But yeah, that's all the stories and echoes from the Macabre by Daphne du Maurier. I definitely suggest checking out some of her writings if you don't want to go into a novel right at the beginning. Then check out some of her short stories. I think it's always fascinating when authors like diversify, like maybe they write poetry and then go into plays or novels or short stories like this one. And it's just kind of fun to see if they're actually still, like, if in that other kind of writing medium they're still good at it. And Daphne du Maurier definitely is. I've really enjoyed all of her writings that I've read. So give her a try if you haven't yet. And I didn't think of a question for this week. What would I do in the situation of the birds? I'd probably die. I don't have like things to reinforce my windows with. They would probably get smashed through and get me. Like, there's a saw here. I could swing a saw at them. I have like a spinning staff. I could use that to whack them as they're coming at me. But if the birds thing happened to me, there's just too many of them for me to handle. So I would probably die. What do you think you would do if birds decided to attack humanity like all at once in these giant masses and they just didn't care if they died? Do you think you would live or die? I'd like to think I'd live. Like, I'm definitely a survivalist person. Like, I would try and survive as much as possible, but, like, what am I going to do about it when all the birds are attacking, right? So, once again, this was Echoes from the Macabre by Daphne du Maurier. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this, check out my other book reviews. Give me a like, comment down below if you think you could survive the whole bird situation. And you all have a great day, and thank you so much for listening.